What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Game Over Greggy Show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the AKA thing I'm not ready for yet. I'm still not ready.
Yeah.
Baby Blues.
The second best Blue Eyes in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
Second best Blue Eyes.
My brother.
He's Forbes 30 under 30.
Right.
But the Blue Eyes is a moniker and an award given out by his mother, who gave it to his brother.
Right.
Yeah.
So Tim is second best Blue Eyes.
Second best.
Yeah.
It's official.
It's Tim Gettys, at Tim Gettys.
Let him most.
It's official.
Yeah. I don't know. You can get our shirt, my shirt that I'm wearing right now on kindafunny.com/store. Right now.
Okay, that was an interesting one. You know, I hear that. I understand that. It was just you. Oh, there.
You
Kevin,
looked at it.
I was just looking at your eyes more than anything. Now I'm looking at your chest.
Right.
Your eyes are up there. Your
Right.
chest is down there. There it is. Perfect.
Really, what you were saying to him was, "I'm down here."
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was doing.
I'm done.
Over here, ladies and gentlemen, it's Cory Barlog. Yay! Director of God
First
of
ever
War.
Game Over Greggy show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
this is
a good
very
one.
exciting.
How do you like that, huh?
Yeah,
That's what happens. They were like, you want Cory? I was like, yeah. They didn't even ask what I wanted him for.
Right.
What a bunch of saps working at
They were like,
PlayStation.
as long as
You know
it's
what I
not
mean?
Game Over Greggy, then it's cool. And
Yeah.
then, what do we find out when we
Oh
get
my
here?
God, the one rule we gave you.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Cory, I'm so excited to have you up here.
I am excited to be here.
I have so many questions for you.
You do.
So many things. Yeah.
Fantastic.
But
I have
first,
so many answers.
really?
No.
Oh, okay. But first, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Game Over Greggy Show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 3 best friends gather on this table, each bringing a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can get each and every episode early, along with a bonus pre and post show. You can watch us as we record it live, so if Cory slips up and says something about God of War 2, we have it. It's too late, and we can't take it back. You can also get it as a big video pre and post show as well on Friday, along with the MP3 that doesn't have the pre and post show. And if you don't want to give us any money on patreon.com/kindafunny, no big deal. You can head over to youtube.com/kindafunny and podcast services around the globe to get it for free the following Friday, 1 week later. Super late. This episode is going to be super late because we're baking them for the holidays.
Yeah.
We're getting ahead of
This
everything.
is going to be
here.
a nice little Christmas present for
What a
people.
Christmas present for people. Speaking of Christmas presents, thank you for my Christmas present, DJ Kento, Patreon producer of this episode.
Don Julio Kento.
Don Julio Kento is his full name, we decided a while back.
No, you decided that. Oh, good. Don Julio.
Yes.
Cory Barlog.
Greg Miller.
It's been a duck's age since you were up here.
I know, right?
Last time you were up here was, I believe, for the spoiler cast. We had the spoiler cast, right?
When was that? Like
Right after the game. It was like the week after
Well,
the game.
we
came
hung
out.
It was
out
like May or April?
at the Game Awards nominee party.
Well, we've hung out.
Oh, yeah.
I was there to celebrate with him at Game Awards. All right, so don't even
It's
get
the fancy
into it.
Greg
all right?
Miller.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's not flex on each other. About how,
Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you. That was pretty awesome.
yeah, it was. It was pretty awesome. Oh, yeah, it was all right. That was
pretty
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. That's what I want to talk about. The Game Over Greggy Show is, we each bring a topic, we all talk about it. Blah, blah.
Right,
My
cool.
topic is you. But more importantly, I want to talk about 2018 for you.
2018.
Because I feel like it's rare. Some would say never, and it's impossible. Because and I'm going to do it. I know you're not going to want to hear it. I know you're not going to want to be, you know what I mean? Let's talk about it, right? You Kojima'd this year.
I Kojima'd this
you
year.
went to a different level.
Oh,
now,
wow.
Hideo Kojima, we can't look back and be like, oh, this is when he went from just being a developer everyone respected inside of the industry to a breakout cult
Face
classic
of the
face of the
culture.
industry.
Truly,
Exactly.
Truly a face of this.
You went from being somebody I knew and had kissed during a God of War live stream.
Speedrun, yeah.
and then you never called me?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. You still won't give me your phone number. I've asked multiple times. I don't know why you don't trust me, other than the fact that I call people on the shows all the time.
right?
You went from being somebody I think video game fans knew the name of. They understood your pedigree. They understand the games you had worked on. They understood you were a big deal at Sony, right? To being somebody now that I see everywhere. And don't lie, you look better than ever. You're styling your hair all the time. You're wearing the glasses. You're wearing the cool Henleys. Like you're there. You know what I mean? This is
There.
the year. You're like peak Cory Barlog.
Peak Cory Barlog.
Yeah. This is like what it's all about, I feel.
Right?
Do you feel this? Do you see this? Are you in the forest and can't see the trees?
I believe I am quite often too much in the forest. I mean, right now, life outside of all this still continues on, right? You
Sure.
still have the same stuff that you have to deal with. So I think my wife is very good at making me stay down on the sort of like, the ground level.
Yeah,
right?
she's gonna bring you down a peg.
Bring me down a peg. That's
Yeah.
a good way to put it. In a very loving way.
Of course.
But yeah, I'm trying to appreciate it. I mean, I've gotten that advice from everybody, saying just like appreciate the moments that you're in. But I mean, I think constantly sort of in a state of disbelief.
Yeah.
You know, like if there was a camera on us when they announced the game of the year at Game Awards, you would have seen me look at Shannon and go, "What the fuck?" And like I was flabbergasted.
Well, you told me that story at the bar, right?
Yeah.
Because they actually had the camera on the Red Dead people.
Yeah. Trying to fake everybody else out, right?
Wow.
And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. This is really good because their game was great, so I'm super excited for them, right? And Shannon was, she's always the cheerleader. She's always the one, Barlog, come on, this is great. We got this, right? And I'm definitely the more pessimistic one there.
Yeah.
So it was quite an amusingly bizarre moment.
At Game Awards, had you given up hope? Because early on for me, because God of War is my game of the year. I've already told you that. I've already said multiple times that I think it's my favorite game of all time. I just don't want to pass judgment too early. But it was that thing when it was Red Dead, voice acting or performance, Red Dead. I was like, oh God, here we go.
Yeah.
You guys get to be Horizon.
Yeah. I did. I think we sort of had a quick interaction in the middle of it, and I was like, you know what? We did good. This was a great year for us. We made something fun. We're super proud of it. But this was something we had talked about. I think even in the middle of the game, we were talking about this. Is like, I don't want to release in the same year as Red Dead because it's freaking Red Dead 2. It's going to be huge. Which is why initially when we were in 17. And then they had announced fall 17. I was like, we need to not be there, right? And I was like, cool, we'll get out of there. And then what did they do? They just moved.
Yeah.
Jerks. But yeah, I think it was just like, you know what? It's not our year. It's all good, right? Like they still had fun. So it was definitely when it switched. It was a big surprise for us. In fact, none of us had even heard the action adventure one.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was my wife who had said, while I was going up on stage for the direction thing, she's like, wait, did they say that they won for action adventure? Wait, we meant here like that. We didn't hear that.
Yeah.
And apparently it was right before we walked in. So we were doing stuff outside, and then we had to go in through a specific entrance. So we just missed, I think, the first 10 minutes, and they had announced that in that time. So
I'm sitting at the table with 2 Game Awards winners. It's pretty
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Only one of us has the trophy, though. Just letting you know. Jeff takes a long time to mail them. He'll eventually.
Right?
They're very heavy. They're
are
the heaviest
so
things
freaking heavy
in the world.
Yeah.
And they take them away from you immediately when you go off stage.
yeah.
Because I was like, hey, I just want to go take some pictures. I'll take some pictures of it. I'm just going to take it for a little bit. No. They do not let you mess around with those because they have one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They want to keep making that one go all the way through.
Exactly.
But yeah, they're very impressive. I think it's in Weta. Didn't they build the...
Really?
That sounds right.
That makes sense. It's nice.
Yeah. It's really well put together. I was quite impressed with that. So.
Yeah.
Very excited
Wait
to
till
get
they have one in your office.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have a little trophy case. I think that's very cool for the team.
Yeah.
In the sense that, we've had such a long period of time being in the dark, right? Being in this closed room of creating something. So to kind of feel, one, the fan reaction, sort of bolstering it, but then also the peer reaction, I think is just amazing. Like you can't really ask for anything more than that.
So then when you look back now, when we're here at the end of the year, you look back at 2018, like, is it night and day from when the game released? Or you went gold, or is it not? Is it just a marathon? Because you're still up here.
You mean like there's a point where it's just switches?
Yeah, what your life is and what your responsibilities are.
I would say the night and day switch was when I started the first press tour in February, I think. I think we did that February or March, where I went to Europe, and man, that was the beginning of if you thought developing a game was hard, it's hard to go out and talk about that game in like 5 countries in 5 days.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of, from that, we just kept going. And I mean, I was 100% willing. I wanted to do this. I thought,
of course,
this is the best way to get out there and reach people. One, to show people that, human beings are making these games. And for me, the games that I like and the movies that I like to hear from the creators. I like to hear them being the ones out front talking about the things that they're working on. So I was like, we should do as much as possible, but I never realized how exhausting that is.
Sure.
I mean, I see you guys traveling all the time. I'm like, I don't know how you do it. Like, I think I just got back from Japan and then went from Japan to Seattle and then from Seattle to here. So
how was Japan?
Japan was amazing. Oh my gosh. Like, one, all these designers that I admire so much are willing to open their doors and hang out with me.
Sure.
That's amazing. But also, I experienced about that much of Japan, that much of not even Japan, Tokyo. So it's like even more specifically, a tiny fraction of that. I could probably spend a month there and still only make it double that.
Was this your first time in Japan?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I went for the first time a couple of months ago too, and I stayed in just Japan as well. The
Tokyo.
Game developer, just Tokyo as well. The game developers didn't hit me up though.
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't invite you over to do anything?
Yeah, none of them hit me
the
up. I had
call.
to kind of like be asking other people and like get a little sort of back channel negotiation to get in there. And, Kojima was super cool to let me come over. And I really didn't expect anything. I was like, oh, cool, I'll get to go hang out and maybe convince him to sign my copy of Metal Gear.
Yeah.
But actually, we hung out for like an hour and a half. And he just talked me through the game. And I was like, I was blown away because I'd never known him on the development side. Like we met many times, but it's always that like, oh, hi, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? It's very formal. But like listening to him talk about something and seeing that passion and realizing like, oh man, we are all so alike, right? And then talking to Miyazaki, all the fears that we have, it's everybody, man. He has the same issues. Like all the same issues we have in development. He was bringing up these questions and asking how we deal with it. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, we have the same problem. Right? I was thinking it's universal across the world. And I think that sort of, I don't want to say imposter syndrome, but that feeling of never feeling like it's done, that struggle of trying to help people understand, I think what it is you're doing when you're trying something that, I wouldn't necessarily say that what we did was break new ground, right? But in some ways, we broke new ground of moving away from what you're familiar with. Yeah. And that is always a difficult thing to explain. And you look at, Demon Souls, trying to explain Demon Souls to other people when there wasn't a Demon Souls or a Dark Souls. I never realized that is a challenge, right? Yeah. It's the same challenge that I think all these games, as we're trying these new things, are becoming increasingly more difficult of how do we explain it to each other, right? And then, now remove the barrier of if we talk in dev speak, it's a little easier. Mm-hmm. Now explain it to people who don't speak the same sort of dev speak, right?
How would you pitch God of War then with that framework?
I mean, that's where we came up with the whole, the Kratos and his son carrying the ashes of the mother to the highest mountain, So it was this kind of concept of just starting with the personal story and then having to start to spiderweb it out, because then you have all these sort of caveats of like, okay, well, it's not a reboot, right? Because it's continuing the timeline, right? But it's reimagining the world, right? He's continuing forward. So this is Kratos, but he's much older. He's had time, right, to evaluate his decisions. And then from that, he is actually trying to make different decisions. But like all of us, you don't get it right. You fail over and over and over and over again. And this is an endearing story of repeated failure leading to a single victory, right? However small.
Do you feel... Is you talked about how, now it's so much hard. You underestimated how hard it is to run around and talk about the game and do all these different things. Do you feel, again, I know I'm going to keep pushing this narrative on you whether you like it or not. Do you feel the pressure of the Switch of, again, going from not
the
anonymous...
Nintendo Switch?
No,
right?
Not Sony over the... not that you were anonymous before and nobody cared or anything like that, but like now you are, again, a face of video game development, and you are a face of Sony Santa Monica, and this, like you talk about, you want people to know, you want audiences to understand that people make games.
Yeah.
This does seem to be a tipping point year for that, right? Where people are talking about crunch and talking about layoffs and why do games need more money and how much is more. Like, there's a lot of eyes on you in that way now, I think, right? Where you have to carry the torch and tell those stories to people. Do you feel that, like, in terms of going out? I'm sure you're used to representing Sony or Santa Monica or whatever, but now in terms of like an industry-wide persona?
Not until now.
Okay, good. Think about it. Every time you get interviewed now, think about it.
No, I mean, I definitely, to me, want to take a little bit of that on to be able to, talk to people and communicate about the process of making games, about how some of us outside have expectations of certain things, right? But, it's very different, right? And I think for a while, perhaps we have not put the creators out front. Sometimes there are certain creators that come out front. Like you said, Kojima had that sort of moment where he just became larger than everything. Yeah. But the sort of well-known sort of game designers and directors in this is not as large.
There's
and
a
there's
handful.
There's so many great.
I would say Kojima, Ken Levine,
Cliff Bleszinski.
Yeah.
Miyamoto.
Neil Druckmann.
Sure.
Neil Druckmann.
Right? Who?
Oh, Bruce Straley. No. Neil's going to be pissed that one. Sorry, Nick.
Right. He's going to send scathing emails.
No, he'll think about it and then delete it.
But yeah, it's like there are so many great designers and directors throughout this industry that I think need to be the ones out there speaking to their games. And I do think it is a little bit of a responsibility we all bear, because I want to see this community in this industry grow, right? But grow in that positive way, that way of we're expanding sort of the reach and mix of creative thought, right? That it is not just, everybody's making the same type of game. We have so many amazing games this year alone.
Sure.
Right? This year alone is absolutely ridiculous with how much stuff comes out. I don't know how anybody can keep up with all of it at the same time. I'm literally playing the beginning of a lot of different games. So it's the embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
But at the same time, so much goes into that, right? Like we release a game and like 4 days later, there's another big game hype starting up.
Yeah.
And that game's going to release a week after that. So yeah, I think the more we can start having the people who create these things come out and be the ones to talk about it, because they have the passion.
Something that I really appreciate about you, that I feel this year kind of added on top of course, you guys made God of War, and of course that's all awesome, but I feel like you really came out into the public when it comes to being on shows like this, or being on Easy Allies, or doing stuff with Alana and then back when she was at IGN. It's like, a lot of developers do that, but the way that you do it's different, because it's like you just talk about your interests. It's not just about we're talking about the game. You're a real person on Twitter. You interact with people on a daily basis. Like you retweet things, you like things, you reply, and it's like you're a person. And it's like that is rare. I would say.
No, totally. Yeah.
This is a surreal conversation.
Yeah, it's weird to talk about yourself and how you're doing things.
You're a person, and that's a rare thing.
It's 2018.
But you know what we mean? Like you have opinions, and I'm not saying other people don't, but a lot of people are more guarded with that, or very on not brand, but on topic of like, I'm here to talk about my game. We're talking about this thing, right?
Yeah, and I don't know. I guess my own school of thought is this idea that, hey, you're just talking to people.
Sure.
And this idea of just staying on the message. To me, I don't like watching that anyway. I like watching the people who are actually going to sit there and tell a little bit about themselves, give a little bit of insight into who the person is, because they're all, everybody coming out and trying to be the same person.
Yeah.
Not fun, right? But an industry filled with sort of the differing, not only opinions, but just personality types of people. You get to see like, wow, these are interesting creatives, right? Well, thank you for that. That's a wonderful.
I've been thinking it for a long time, because like it's funny, because I knew you were coming. We didn't know what show you were gonna do or whatever, and I was just telling Greg this morning that I was in the shower yesterday thinking about it, and I was like, "What show is he gonna be on?"
He was thinking about me in the shower.
That's what I do. But I had this moment where separately we both came to the conclusion of like 2018 really was your year, where it's like you are now on that list of names of game devs that are like faces of the industry. And I was really trying to think. I was like, it's more than just the game, though. It's more, and I really feel like it is the social presence and just you being as genuine and real as you are, talking to people. And it's like it's so cool because we interview so many people, but there's something special about you, and I really like that.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
And there's something special about you that we love, I'm sure, is what drives Sony PR so crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't like all the things we're complimenting him on. I'm sure they're like, oh my God, that Twitter feed, right?
Yeah,
right, that's the thing that happens.
Heart attack fuel, man. That's how we roll. I was actually, like, when Duncan Jones came into the studio and we were hanging out, one of the questions he asked me, we were just all over the map on the different subjects, and he was like, how does your wife feel about Twitter? And I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because Twitter is a supercharged subject in our house, right?
Oh, really?
Very charged, right? Because, there's that sense of like, all right, well, you're spending a lot of time on this, and you need to be spending time with us, right? And I'm trying to find that balance, but, I really do like interacting with people about this stuff. And to me, it's, I don't know, I guess I always feel like it's fleeting and timely, meaning like it's going to go away. Like I'm going to close my eyes and then it's going to go away and it'll all be gone. And I wouldn't have taken advantage of the moment and enjoyed it and been able to interact with so many people, right? Which is why I'm enduring flights all over the world, because I want to hang out with these people who enjoy the work that we do. It's so inspiring. It's so exciting, right? But I was like, so wait, how does your wife? She's like, she hates it. Right? I was like, yeah, my wife hates it too. Like, and so much so that she got on Twitter.
Oh God.
So that we could then have conversations. So you see every once in a while. That's funny. And she's saying that. She's like, she's sending a tweet when I'm sitting next to her on the couch. And I'm like, look, you can just say something. She's like, I'm just making a point. Right? And I was like, look, I'm right here. Right? All right, I'll put the phone down. Right?
But now, so is she starting to get it though now? Because I saw coming off that Game Awards, a lot of people tweeting at her.
Yeah.
They're like, it was great hanging out with you.
Yeah,
Corey's fine, whatever. But I like seeing you.
Yeah, she's making all the friends now. Her
Yeah,
and Alana,
exactly.
her and Alana are gonna go off to Europe together and hang out. So yeah, she's having a good time with it. But I think it seems to be that sense of in order to, I guess maybe an overdoer, a perfectionist type of person. So if I'm taking on that, I'm like, I'm gonna go crazy with this thing.
Yeah.
I think that in the beginning, I was flying to New York with Chris and Danielle, and we were waiting for the flight. And I was saying, I don't know how you guys do Twitter. It's just so overwhelming to try to respond to all this stuff. And they're like, you're not supposed to respond to all this stuff. I'm like, really? But why do it then if you don't respond to everything? And she's like, I think you're going to pass out if you try to do it. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Well, I haven't really figured this thing out or mastered it very well.
Well, I mean, I think it's one of the reasons, that it's been your year is the fact that you get all of this and you get 2018 where the conversation is and the relationship is between developers and players in a way that not other people don't get but maybe don't want to engage with, right? I can only imagine, like, this is fun and we love making the shows and talking to the best friends and doing all that stuff, but then the communication and the relationship is part of the job. So that's why, of course, I'm always stoked to go on Twitter and go on Reddit and comment on a thread or be a part of this or send an email. But to go work on a game and lead a team and do these things and then come home and be a husband, be a father, then to go off to do all these different things, but then to add on top of that, still trying to keep that relationship between you and the player going in a different way, but in a way that's as important, if not, or probably just as important, not more important than the game itself. But you know what I mean?
Right,
It's you're juggling a lot of stuff.
It is a lot. I think for me, the thing that makes it worth it is I imagine when I was younger, and I had, these directors that I admired, like to feel like I would have a connection.
Sure. To
say, I just saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, Steven Spielberg, I thought your movie was amazing. To have him like that, right? Or say thanks to me personally would have meant so much, right?
100%.
That sense of feeling like I was connected to these people that I thought had created something that moved me.
Right.
And I thought, to me, that's such a cool thing to be a part of because
100%.
Who knows? One of those people might be the future Neil Druckmann. Neil Druckmann is a guy that did the game called Last of Us. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Oh, the guy with the big bushy beard.
Right.
Vandal Savage from the DC show. Yeah, of course. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay, my
Did you
apologies.
say Vandal Savage?
Yeah. You didn't see this a while back? When they launched DC Legends of Tomorrow, the bad guy looked just like Neil Druckmann. And so people tweeted him multiple times not being mean,
right,
but just that thing like, hey, do you know this guy looks like you? And finally he'd be like, yes, I'm aware. I'm aware. He doesn't treat that much of beard.
Dear everyone,
like, I'm aware that I look like this guy.
I get it. No
you don't
more
have to
tweets
keep telling me,
this.
please.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay.
Have you been able to?
There he is. This is Vandal Savage.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, you're right.
Yeah.
Like that's like the cleaned up.
Yeah, it
version.
was definitely a cleaned up. Yeah,
Right. And the thing
multiverse.
is, Neil has a staff just like that.
Have you been able to watch many movies this year?
No. I mean, my wife and I unwind actually watching shows, right? So I think that's what we end up doing, and it usually is just watching like, bubblegum comedy stuff that just is not engaging that much of our brain because we're both so tired. But man, I'm trying to remember. Like watching a movie is a big deal in our house, right? Because most movies are over 2 hours. Our son finally gets to bed around 8 to 9 p.m. So that means we will not finish the movie in one sitting. And I am an advocate. I cannot watch a movie in multiple sittings. I can't.
I'm halfway
do
through
it.
Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Can't wait tonight to find out what happens.
Really?
Thanks, Gia. Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen it before, but
like I mean, if I've watched a movie before, I'm okay. But watching it for the first time and then saying like, oh, we're gonna stop in the middle and then go to bed, and then the next day I gotta wait all day to watch the second half. I just can't do it.
I hate
right?
it.
Like that. When we watched Gravity together, we never finished that last 15 minutes, and it drives me bananas. But who wants to watch the last 15 minutes of a movie? Like you've already watched the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So that is a tough thing, right? Like I wish we had more time to actually, and we never really get to go to the theater, right?
Sure.
We don't have the very good with babysitters, so.
My question, because I need you to give me a little bit of a refresher on Cory Barlog 101, but then give me the updated version too, is how much this year have you been together with them? Because they were, before, leading up to the launch of God of War, right? They were somewhere across the globe.
They were in Sweden.
For how long were they there?
6 months.
See, and then like you guys got back together, and I was like, oh great, they're just gonna be together. And then no, you're still just, oh hey, I'm here for the Game Awards thing. Oh, I'm here for this thing. I see you shooting around doing all this stuff.
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy year. I mean, we had issues with the house, which were affecting
Termites?
her health, mold.
Oh.
And in order to do all that work, I mean, they have to turn the house into like the freaking end of ET with all the tents and stuff.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So they were gone during the entire like saga of this. But
Were
that
you
saga,
living it all by yourself?
I was
In the
living all
tent
by
house?
myself.
Oh, wow.
Living in my son's room. All of our furniture was in our kitchen, so I had no access to the kitchen. The rest of the house was tented off, and all of our furniture from the closet was in our bedroom. So I could only stay in my son's room, and it was like that for probably 4 months. Like it was
And
2
you're
months to get
launching the
everything
game.
set up.
No big deal.
And it was at the time when I was like
God.
finishing the game, so I was so stressed out. Like there's so much like agitation that comes from being under that kind of stress. But fortunately, as we get near the end of the game, the reliance is more on the sort of leads on the team. There's several that they sort of take up the torch, and it is about finaling things. It is about getting all the very specific details in order, which I'm more of a distraction during that period of time because I don't want to change these things and add chaos
You're
to
just
the
walking
elements.
around looking over shoulders.
Right. I'm just, what are you doing here? So there is definitely that time where everyone's glad that I'm getting out, right? But yeah, we did not have a lot of the year together. And now, since we shipped, I've been able to be on a break with him.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time, did a few trips together, and just trying to enjoy our time.
Sure.
Right. I think that is a really good thing.
But they understand like these kind of trips, right? Like you're shooting up, doing a little bit of
Yeah.
Even though I don't understand why you're here, but
Right.
it doesn't matter. I don't know what you're doing in all these different places. I don't know what you're
They understand. Like, my son, I think, is not as aware.
Sure.
Right? Because to him, me leaving means he gets a plane when I come back.
Oh.
So like each
that's
time I
cool.
come back, I get him one of these little planes from different places. So to him, he's just stoked he's getting back.
Yeah.
Right? So like, Daddy, go away more. Loving it. She's a little bit less happy with that. But the
Have you
last
tried
week,
giving her a plane?
that's a really good idea. Yeah. I think she got 2 lizards recently.
Oh, okay.
She's like, it's funny. She's super into all the things that are sort of traditionally, like guys like to play with bugs and lizards and stuff like that. I don't like that stuff at all.
No,
But
me
she is representing the sort of male role model for him.
Good. Okay,
Right?
good.
So I think that's very good.
You're not there. She's taking on all of it.
Right. Yeah. She's
any,
got it all.
Any role in the house. She's like, oh, that's what I
she
do.
has the most difficult job. Mine is just talking, right? But
Yeah.
hers is dealing with a very contentious 6-year-old who has got the stubbornness of both of us. She's extremely stubborn, and I'm extremely stubborn. So it's like that double stubborn. He's like the Incredible Hulk of stubbornness.
Okay.
Right? Like it is surreal. Like he will not budge.
The more you try to stop him, the more stubborn he
Yeah,
gets.
yeah. We just at this point, there's so many points we just give up. Fine, don't eat it then. Right? I don't care. Right? And then once he realizes we've given up, he's like, "Well, I'm not gonna win anything, so I guess I'll just eat it."
The only way to win is by not playing.
Right?
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
I hope he doesn't figure out that he shouldn't watch this.
No.
Then he's gonna
Trust
figure
me.
out how I'm totally gaming him on that system. That's not good. It's all a jokey though.
No, I feel like it's got to be this weird struggle for your wife and for your son, but more for your wife because she's cognizant of everything that's happening. Of right, like this, like you were talking about earlier, is a moment in time.
Yeah.
Like right, well, you got to ride this wave while you can because next year there will be other games that come out and that'll happen, and you start working on something, I assume, and do something else and have
Right.
to go back into blackout.
Or I'll say something dumb.
Yeah, well,
Then everyone
we
will
all
hate
know
me.
that's gonna happen.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, you mean dumb like? Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
I thought you meant dumb like slip up on something, not dumb
right.
like, hey, by the way, I don't like these people.
Oh, God.
That's what he meant. I'm reading between the lines there.
Right.
When's the next time that you think you're going to play through God of War?
Ooh. I have been meaning to do a sort of let's play where I'll play through the whole thing and talk about stories of
Oh my
the development. And I have a whole
get that
setup
I was
out.
going to say
at home.
copyright kind of funny. Copyright kind of
Right.
funny. We want that content. We want that content.
I have a whole setup at home that I was preparing to do this, right? And not thinking through the problem I was like, all right, I was focusing so hard on like the technological aspects. So I got the camera and the microphone.
He already had the Blue Apron sponsorship, the Audible sponsorship.
Yeah, got everything. Only to realize I don't have an office with a door. I have a loft above our house, and my son is always there. So there's literally no way, unless he's involved in the Let's Play, that it's going to happen. So I was like, all right, you know what? I don't really want him watching the game, and I was like, maybe we have to figure out a way to embrace that, because I don't think I'm going to be able to get through any stretches without him being involved in that. But I would love to do that, because I haven't since we finished. That's my last sort of complete playthrough for tuning and balancing and kind of checking. I have not.
So you don't even have the platinum trophy.
I do not. Like I have not. Well, I did the stuff to platinum
God of War more than
before
you
the
do.
Doesn't trophy
existed.
So I platinum before platinum was even a thing.
Nah, it's impossible. That's not how it works. That's not how platinum trophy.
That's exactly how it works.
I don't think so.
I am the platinum trophy.
Now that we're so far removed from it, do you regret not doing DLC? Do you are you still? I when you were here for the spoiler cast, I talked about it. Where back then I was like, I hope you don't. I think it's perfect how it is, so on and so forth. I assume that's still where we're at.
Ooh, that's
I'm not trying. I'm giving you the out because I don't want to catch you.
You're giving me the answer to the question. Well, look, I had a really fun idea for a DLC that I only regret because I would love to have done that. But it was, it was too ambitious in the sense that it was like a Left Behind. It was like a Lost Legacy kind of thing. Gotcha. It would end up being its own thing, right? And rightfully so. Everybody had said like, dude, this is crazy. This isn't DLC. This is a little too big. But I still feel really good about the idea that what we released is everything, right? The only things that irked me was not having photo mode and New Game Plus on the original release. But it was a choice between cutting them forever or just releasing them shortly after as kind of the free content. So I would have loved to have made all that stuff, but that balance between here's all the bugs you need to fix, here's what we need to do here. I can take all these people and we can fix all these bugs. You just won't get these things. And I'm like, all right, well, stable game, always. Even though you can add patches, still, the more stable we can get it immediately, the better, right? Yeah. And that's a point of pride, I think, for me as well as our sort of entire studio of releasing something that we feel is the most stable that we can get it, right? It's maddening and it's very difficult. And honestly, you're never going to get it perfect. That's the thing is that, a lot of people will find a bug or something and how does testing miss this? And, it's huge. These games are massive. Sure, but I think our game is still a fraction of a game like Red Dead, and you're looking at something like that and you're going like, I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine testing something like that where it's like you've got 70 hours before you get to a specific event. It's maddening.
Crazy.
So my other question then, because whenever we catch up, we just catch up for funsies. This is a fun businessy funsy mix up, right? When you were here last time, you had us blowing a whole bunch of smoke, right? Of like how much amazing it was, how we loved it, and all that stuff. All that's true. We still feel that way. Don't worry. Spoiler cast was great.
Oh.
Have you talk to me about what it's been like now to live with the player reaction? I think it's a different thing to come up here and we've played it. And I think was it right after review embargo? The game wasn't out yet.
Yeah,
it wasn't in the wild.
Yeah.
So like now
true.
that it's been in the wild, like what is surprised you or caught you off guard? What are the reactions from fans that stand out to you?
Oh wow. There have been a bunch of these reactions. I mean, there's one story. We were at the PAX What's Good Games party.
Oh, I've heard of
that one at the bar.
Yeah.
Right. And this guy came up to me and was like, "Hey, you made God of War, right?" He's like, "I'm sorry, I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but I just have to say, like, I played the game. I haven't played the other games that much. But this one interested me, so sat down and played the game. And when I got to the end of the game, I had been estranged from my father for like 20 years. Haven't talked to him, right? And this game made me understand a little bit about what he might have been going through. It made me want to call him, right? And I was like, wow. I'm like, so you did? Yeah. He's like, I called him. I'm like, do you still talk to him? He's like, we talk every week, right? And I think, to me, there is literally no higher praise or compliment you could ever get for anything that you can do than it actually helped fix something
Sure.
that was broken.
Sure.
Right. And I don't necessarily think that we are responsible for that. We are a part of that because it woke something up, I think, in him. Right. But it gave him a different viewpoint. And I think that's what's so amazing about what all of us do. All of us in the sort of field of creating things, we offer our own unique lens of the world for other people to view, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to connect with everybody, but those people that it connects with, there are fractions of those people that it really connects with, that it wakes something up inside of them. It makes them see the world in a way that they've never seen it before, right? And it can change. It can cause such amazing change. And I mean, so much of this game is about the openness to change, the idea that we could change for the better, the idea that change is very hard. And I think, man, how amazing is it to be part of something like that? To me, that was awesome. And I mean, we've gotten, emails similar to that. Somebody posted on Reddit, I think, an amazing story very similar to this. That
So
was
cool.
just so moving to hear about how much they had carried for their life of this resentment towards their father, right? And that they couldn't understand why he was that way. And then playing this gave them a little bit of insight to see, like, you know what? He must have been going through some shit too, right? And that I maybe was only focused on the one side. It doesn't, forgive every single situation, but it does help you see something. I was having a really long back and forth on Twitter recently with somebody who sort of shouted at me to keep politics out of games, and we don't want to lose you to that.
Yeah.
And it was a great conversation. This guy had sort of just made a comment, and I was like, oh, I don't understand. And then we talked for the entire day. I was actually sick, so I'm at home, sitting in bed, and I'm like, all right, well, I can have this conversation. One, it was awesome that he was continuing to have the conversation, and neither of us yelled at each other.
Nobody blocked each other.
Yeah, nobody
shut
blocked each
down.
other.
Yeah,
Nobody did anything. It was just two people exchanging ideas and trying to understand each other's viewpoint, and me trying to at least express that when you tell other people they're not allowed to talk about something, that is the human experience for us all, right? Politics is for everyone, right? It doesn't mean that everyone needs to sit there and talk about it, but it isn't something that says, oh, well, you're educated in that, or you're an expert in politics, right? Because everybody can talk about games. You don't have to make games to talk about games. That's the beautiful part about any of this sort of human experience, is that we can continue to communicate and offer different viewpoints, right? And that no one's trying to make you think a certain way. They're simply saying, hey, this is how I see the world.
Yeah.
And if you can accept that, take that in and go, cool, I don't see it that way. But wow, I got a little bit of information out of that. I see things differently. It doesn't change me. It makes me better that I've gathered just a little bit more information on top.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm so happy we
The
got
year
you
of
on
Cory
this show.
Barlog. You know
I
what
love
I
it.
mean? He can come out, he can say that. He can go be on a Jared Petty weird Superman panel. He can
that
go
was so
accept
great.
a game award. Yeah.
That was, I love that panel so
You
much.
see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, again, this is your year. This has been your year, Cory Barlog, because you embrace the moment and you take these opportunities and you're doing everything you can to not. And it makes it sound like you're scheming like Tim. Yeah, I'm saying you embrace every moment and get out there because you want to and you want to be a part of those like your chance. And this is the thing. And like you're saying,
Because they let me. I think that's honestly the phrase for me this year is like, because they let me. I feel like everybody's just letting the kid run in the candy store, and I keep being more surprised that I'm like, oh, you're gonna let me do that? Oh, rad, right? Like, you're gonna let me go hang out with Kojima? Awesome, right?
Yeah,
like,
so cool.
Like every time it's just me testing the limits of like, oh, I could do that too. That's so great. Because 10-year-old me would be absolutely loving the what I feel like 50-year-old me, but it's actually 43-year-old me is actually doing, right? And I think everything is fleeting. Everything. Well, nothing lasts forever, so I'm going to make sure that I enjoy every bit of this, right? Because I don't know how long it's going to last.
So then what are your New Year's resolutions? What do you want out of 2019? It doesn't have to be gaming stuff.
Well, 2019, man, it's going to be even. I have a feeling that 2019 is going to be a better year for games than 2018, and I already was like, man,
That's a great year.
how can it get any better? But looking at what is coming out next year,
I was gonna say you got a point too, because this year they didn't release Patapon 2 on PS4, so it only can get better next year.
Oh, yeah.
Stop hiding it from me, Shuhei. Stop hiding it.
Release
from me.
Patapon 2, cowards. Yeah, I mean, I want to be obviously better at being a husband and a father. That's a big one.
Sure.
Right? Get a better balance in my life for them. I am definitely needing to get a breakthrough on what I'm working on right now. Get out of this weird thing. Like, when I finished God of War 2, it took me about a year and a half to really creatively get back into the swing of things, because I feel like you just put everything into it. It's like really God of War 2, and then I worked on 3 a little bit, and then when I stopped, it was really a year and a half before I fully got back in the swing. So I'm bouncing back a little bit faster this time, but I feel like I still got a bit of a creative fog in my head. Part of it is maybe I'm still just riding on the cloud, right?
I was gonna say, as part of it,
There's a little bit of that.
And this isn't a bad thing, because I just complimented Jonah, but is it holding on to God of War so tight right now? Because you're here talking about it, right? And I'm sure anywhere you go, even when it is random stuff, you're gonna talk about that and like as we wrap up the year, remember that experience and do all these things.
Yeah, but I think there's a little bit of that. That's for sure. But I think it also is just that sense of, I feel like everybody on the team, ran the tank empty.
Yeah,
we all, there wasn't a single bit of fuel left in the tank for anybody. So coming back from that, it's like when you drain your phone completely. Yeah. And it takes a couple minutes before it'll even come back on and power on. And I think it's the same sort of analogy as that I'm still waiting for that initial charge to give me the screen to pop up, so that I can actually do
preaching
something.
the choir. That kind of funny.
I mean, you guys are always on
right now.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
There's really like
right now more than ever.
Every year we get to December, and yes, we're on empty, and it's like, but we're almost there, and the finish line's there. Tossing the showcase into the mix stressed everyone out way beyond the normalcy. And then I was so naive in thinking that once we got on the other side of the showcase, things would reset to a little bit of normal, and then we would get ready for the January 4th stream, right? And like this week's the best example of it, where historically we take these last 2 weeks of December off, and then we come back that first week of January for the stream. This year we were looking at it, the way the stream fell for our 4th anniversary on January 4th is a Friday. And so it's weird. We need that week to prep content and stuff for the 4th and do different things. So we also never like coming back early if we're going to do it on the 5th or the 4th or whatever. Yep. So then it was like, well, we can't be gone for 3 full weeks. So we'll do this week, the week you're recording with us right now. Yep. And it was like, it'll be a skeleton crew. It'll just be the morning shows. And that's what I told Jen, like you're talking about your New Year's resolution of being a better husband. Like for me, for sure, because I had been a garbage husband leading up to the showcase, because I was coming home exhausted, not being able to, she had to carry the load and take care of everything, and
but you guys had probably the sweetest moment of 2018 on Twitter. The fact that you were holding on to pinkies.
Yeah.
Right. That entire time. That was fantastic. That was such a sweet
Of course, no, and that's the thing.
I was part of the moment too.
Were you there?
I was
Were you the
phone.
one taking the phone?
He was talking to me.
That's right. It was like he was on the phone with you talking about the show.
And no, totally. And that's the thing is like it's a partnership. And Jen gets real mad when I say I've been a bad husband lately or a bad partner, but it's what I feel, right? Yeah. And so then it was that I had already started selling this as a skeleton week, and then for us both to look at the calendar last week, it was like, oh no, this week's just as bad, if not worse, than the rest of it. And it's probably worse not because of the workload, but because of the way I pitched it and the way I thought what I thought I was getting. It's not like I was like duping her. I duped myself, and I came in, and it's been bad.
Yeah, no, it's been rough. I definitely don't remember a time that I've ever felt like I've been running on this low gas for this long. It's like it literally is like driving a car and we've all been there when the gas light's on. You're like, I can go 2 more days back and forth from work to do this, but like I'm like a week after, and I'm like, oh man, I really should do something about this.
January 4th's coming up fast on that horizon. You know what I mean? And every little thing we need to get done and
get ready. Do you feel
ready.
that happens often where you sell something as, don't worry, it's going to be, I feel like that's all I end up doing. I do it at work all the time, and I'm aware of it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, Santa Monica Studios, if you're watching, earmuffs. Sometimes I'm totally lying, and I'm just trying to convince people to push through something, right? Don't worry, it's no big deal. Sometimes I'm not aware of the scale or scope of something like that. Yeah. that I always end up putting my foot in my mouth with my wife of like, oh, don't worry, it's only this or it's only that, right? And it's never only any of those things. So then it's like it makes it worse that you promised something and then you have to go back on that. Yeah.
No, 100%. That's the kind of funny way as well.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of funny way.
Especially me. I'm usually the one who's like, it's not a big deal. We'll do that fine. And it's like,
I'm always the one that's looking at it. I'm like, Craig, I don't know. But then the moment he's like, we can do it. I'm like, I know we can do it. We're going to do it. Let's do it. Okay, we're doing it. Fuck. Oh man, why'd we do it? Why are we doing it?
But that's, I mean, like, it's similar, and how successful you've been with this game. It's the reason we've been able to be so successful, right? Is that we do push each other and we do push the whole thing, and for better or worse. I think for better, you know what I mean? I definitely think it wears us down, and we do decisions we regret, but I wouldn't have not done the showcase. I wouldn't not do everything we're doing on the 4th, even though we're dying.
And I think the showcase and what we're about to do on the 4th are perfect examples of us still riding the wave. Yeah. It's like, we left IGN, and I feel like that was our big moment, and like it never stopped. We're still in the cloud, and it's like,
and that's that's your thing too. Is like that can still be for you too, right? Like you don't have to
maintaining the agility. I think that it's interesting because not only within the social sphere, but within the creative sphere, like when you're doing something, it is maintaining that agility to say, "Ooh, something's switching here." Like,
Yeah.
Oh, that's, you know what? That's actually, it is like you're actually riding multiple waves.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
And it's just you're knowing that right
That's a great
moment
point. That's a great
to
point.
hop from one to the other. And it seems to be consistent throughout all of these things. It's just being conscious and being sort of aware and agile enough and willing to sort of change, to say like, hey, somebody made an announcement they're not doing PSX. We should totally do a giant showcase on a whim.
Yeah. Totally worth it.
Totally worth it.
Some of the most work we've ever put into something, and it was killing us because it was in addition to all the other stuff that we've already been doing. But then it's like, now I'm looking at it, and immediately for us, it's like, okay, so are we doing another one? Like, what's the next plan? It's just
was there a point where you guys looked over at Greg and said, what did you get us into?
No, I
Not
mean,
seriously.
We've now kind of said this a million times, but all of us are kind of funny, have different styles, right? We're all different people. I feel like with me and Greg in particular, we hype each other up with these type of ideas of, it's like, there's that first barometer pitch of, what if I told you this? Right. And you get that reaction, and then the other one will be like, okay, but what about this twist to it? And it's from then it's off to the races, because then it's just like, I always have been saying this at the showcase, and we've been talking about it a lot, but I feel like it was never a question of how do we do this. It was always how long is it going to take to do this? What's our plan? What are we doing? It's like we knew what we had to do. It was just getting it done and like scheduling it all out. That was what was hard work, but it was never a question.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling.
That is a good feeling. Yeah. That is when you have the right sort of collaboration, is that you're able to kind of, one, pitch each other ideas knowing that either the response from them is going to be yes and add to that, or even like, oh no, that doesn't work. You're right. Yeah.
Exactly. I can tell you why.
You can almost very quickly see that when you guys are.
And I think to add another factor to it, like adding Nick to the equation, like Nick, more often than not, doesn't get it. Whatever idea we have, and he's always the one that's.
You, Nick.
But he's always the one. He's like, I don't know, guys. Like this sounds like way too much. This sounds too ambitious. This sounds whatever. And it's not coming from a bad place. It's coming from a realistic place because he's right. Look at us now. We are exhausted. But I like that because it gives us, I feel, the added challenge to sell him on it. Yeah. And in my opinion, I always have felt this way. It reminds me of being at IGN and like how I would deal with my bosses, who ironically was Nick at the time. But I would always make the argument to myself that if I can't convince them it's a good idea,
probably not.
It's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Like if I can't find the right way to explain why this is worth doing, it's not worth doing.
He's intellectually challenging you and forcing you to dig deep. That's good. Yeah. I think to a certain degree, I definitely like that as well. But that's always hard if you get the resistor and you're like, but I actually know this is good, right? But I think having the right people around you, because I have the same thing where it's that core group. There's a couple people that as long as I can get them on board, I feel solid that I have a decent idea. But if I don't have the buy-in from them, I realize like something's wrong, right? Either the way I'm presenting it, either the core idea, right? And then there's the flying leap ones where there's just a few things that nobody likes, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
You need those.
I don't care, man. Yeah.
Looking back, like I was talking about, you talked about all these great stories from the fan reaction stuff. What criticisms have caught you off guard, or stuck with you?
I mean, the troll and the boss stuff. It's the stuff that's right on, right? The things that just was like, hey, the trolls there was too many in there. Right?
Okay.
The trolls felt copy and pasted, and it was like, to a
These
degree.
are the giant dudes with the big things.
To a degree, they are 100% right. Like, I made bad decisions leading up to that of, if we had put a normal health bar and they seemed like regular enemies, just like, nobody said there was too many Draugr in the game.
Yeah.
Right? Because the Draugr were just a bunch of enemies, but we made the foolish decision, and I sort of really made the foolish decision of, the boss health bar looks really good, and the trolls are too tall, and we don't want this health bar on his foot, right? And we don't want it moving up and down on the screen because it was distracting. So we said, sure, we'll put the boss health bar, and then we can name the trolls and the story that I had written for the trolls. So I was like, I'm so excited about this. And it was just a cascading series of bad decisions, right, that led up to this expectation of, that's a boss, right? Because in E3 2016, I actually pointed out every interview, by the way, this giant creature is a giant creature. It's not a boss.
Yeah.
Right? And what did we do? We proceeded to put boss health bars on it, and thinking nobody would read into that. Dummy. And they did, and that was bad. And, then it just leads to the idea that the number of bosses, the bosses were these things that were the first to go as I started to have to scope throughout the game.
Sure.
Right? Because they're, 30 people a year and a half to do one boss. Right? It's such an investment, and it's so time consuming and, mind share stealing, right? If we're doing all the bosses at the same time, it's impossible. So we're having to sort of stagger it throughout and start certain bosses at certain times. And I think we had about 3 or 4 more in the game than we ended up with that we had to just kind of eject throughout. And each one was like, this is a bummer. And I just sort of slowly got myself feeling okay about it until we had to do it again. And I was like, oh man, I just feel like I can't get rid of any of these. So we had to really make these other ones very big. But yeah, I think if I were to go back, I really, really wish I could have figured out a way to do that. That way I would have taken off the stress of the trolls were cool. They were fun enemies. They weren't bosses, but are bad on that one. The ones that take me off guard are the people that play it and still say, you've ruined it, or like you took away, like when people say, Kratos was so much tougher, right, than he was before, and I was like, really? Like, I actually think he's tougher now than he's ever been, right? Like, because he was one-sided, he was one-dimensional.
Yeah.
He was focused on one aspect of his existence, which was vengeance and violence, as opposed to realizing that he has an entire spectrum to experience that he's not good at, right? That he has to figure out because his own sanity is sort of related to that. It's dependent upon that. So, yeah, those ones, there's still some people that every once in a while will...
Hashtag not my God of War.
Yeah. And again, that's fine. I think it's their...
Yeah, you made out pretty okay.
Yeah. Everyone made out all right on that one.
A really cool story that happened to me recently is my best friend played through the game finally. And it was an interesting thing because he is a very bro gamer. Like, doesn't really play games anymore currently. Like, he gave up probably around the PS2 era.
Okay.
He's a big Halo guy, big Madden guy, big Call of Duty, like all that stuff. And not that there's anything wrong with any of that, but huge God of War 1, 2, and 3 guy.
Yeah.
And I, every once in a while, I'll be like, you got to play this game. And Breath of the Wild was one of those games. And I told him, like, dude, you got to play it. But eventually got too hyped up. So when he finally did play, he was like, it's fine. It's fine. When it came to God of War, it took him too long to play because I think it was like he beat it last month.
Oh, wow.
I was so worried. I was like, dude, like, you're going to try to be like Mr. Cool Guy to me about this, and you're going to find some reasons to hate on this. I give it to him, and he plays. The first night he calls me, and he was just like, dude, like, it's very different than the other God of Wars. I don't know. And I was just like, just keep going. Give it a little more time. And then he called me the next morning. He's like, I was up until like 5 a.m. playing this game. And he's like, and then eventually when he beat it, the thing that stuck with me, he was like, I didn't know video games could be like this. And I was like, that's awesome. And he's just like, he's like, I really feel like I want to go back now and look at all the PS4 games I've missed out on, or like those generations. He's never played Uncharted. He's never played Last of Us. And I'm like,
Uncharted 4.
There's so much out there for you to now play that you've just missed out on because you didn't think video games could do this.
That's awesome.
I'm super happy.
That is such high praise. I think to have people feel like, wow, And at some point, it felt like we weren't allowed to do it. There was a lot of people saying, "Why are you doing this?" Right? There's still people saying, "Why do we have to have stories in games?" Right? And we don't. We don't have to, but we do. Right? And we have games that don't have stories, and that's okay too. Those games are also great. Like, we don't have to do anything, but we also don't have to say remove it because we don't like that. Just play something else, right? Like, but being able to actually go in and do stories that have a meaningful impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
That do a little bit more than just, like, and Rockstar's story is operating on a level so far above what they've done in the past, right? Red Dead 2.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing, right? And I don't know if it is sort of the general public or if it is just developers in general that have kind of given ourselves the okay, but it does feel like even at the highest levels of the biggest companies, they're looking for these things that mean something more, right? That they can understand that what we're doing now is not just blowing stuff up and pressing buttons,
Sure.
right? That there are things that are like that are experiences that are fun and sort of whimsical, but there are also experiences that are akin to the sort of great films you've experienced, the great TV shows, incredible comic books, right? And I think that's just exciting. It's an exciting time, I think, because what's ahead, what the next person is going to create is just, it's so incredibly exciting.
Well,
to figure out what is that going to be.
You've talked about it before, and I've talked about it, and we've all, you know what I mean? Like, it all runs in cycles for a reason, right?
Yep.
And what you're talking about, why stories are such a big deal now, is because the people like me that have grown up playing the games, the people like you that have grown up playing the games to now make games, all grew up and wanted something out of it, right? And knew what they wanted to do with it, wanted to run in that direction with it. And so I'm able to be there and always be the single player guy I want, where I want stories and all this stuff. You're able to come in there and from everything you've played and learned from, build that. It's like what you're talking about now is what I always marvel at of the kid right now between 8 and 13 or whatever that's playing these games obsessively and so into all of this, and what's going to happen when they go to college and learn, or don't go to college, when they start making games, right? And when they get to the point that they're 43 years old and they're making their thing with all of this knowledge and everything that's come before it. And we always think about it feels like our industry's been around for so long when in reality it hasn't. When you compare it to something like movies, right, or film or whatever, like you think about that we're still in the infancy of this, right? And then what that'll look like when, and that's why even with games journalism, as you see that continue to morph and change, and what does that mean, and influencers and this, and like what that's going to look like as that continues to expand and grow and go crazy. Or the EMP goes off and we all just have to fight each other in the streets.
Oh, that's also good though. Like I think that totally works. It's like the sort of 1940s, 50s, comic books to the 80s. Like that transition of feeling like people who are absorbing this material are older and looking for stories that mean something more, right? Because we connect with them stronger. It doesn't discount the great stories that were told in kind of that golden age of comic books. It simply says, as we grow, we sort of change. And it is like trying to imagine, what is the person who's 16 now going to create when they're in their 30s, right? The influences
What's
that they're having
Fortnite
today.
look like?
And it's like, that is so incredible. Right, like that to me is one of probably the most exciting things, is to imagine that we are part of a longer collective of bringing gaming forward, right, as creators, right? Not just, hey, this is what we do in this one aspect. It is all aspects, right? It isn't about single player or multiplayer or cooperative. It's about interactive, right? It's about entertainment that you have an active participation in, which is very different from film and television, right? And it's not to denigrate them. That's great. It's just that we do something different, and to celebrate that, to have people who grow up on that, right? That's going to be amazing. What we're going to be. It is truly going to be like crazy Ready Player One stuff.
Yeah, and what's really cool is like seeing, like, keeping it in video games, like to go from something that like Super Mario, 2D platformer, and to understand the rules over decades of what that means, but then to see this resurgence of like retro games being made by these small teams that in a lot of ways are almost like the counterpoint to Mario. They're like, what are all the rules? Okay, we're gonna break all of that. Everything that you know about that. Like, I love seeing games like Celeste right now, where it's like you play that and it really feels like a direct answer to Mario. And like, well, you think you know this, you don't. There's always this one step that changes everything. And getting rid of lives as a concept, where it's like, it's not about getting through this whole endurance thing. It's about one single screen challenge at a time. And how can we make sure that the puzzle you got to figure out there is every single screen fun, challenging, different, as opposed to Mario, where it's like you need to play through this whole level and it's like about the journey. I don't know. It's just, it takes growing up with something to be able to appreciate it and understand the nuance to that level, to be able to make something new based on it.
Instantaneous sort of restart that you get out of that. The idea that, you know, the Mario games having the sort of story wrapper that they've had, but then you look at Celeste having something so moving, so meaningful, to be able to tie this concept of, you know, the tackling the mountain of depression and actually helping people and actually having a connection. And I thought that speech that they gave at the Game Awards was awesome. This idea of those of you who feel that Celeste had helped you with your depression, you did that yourself. You had it in you the whole time. This sort of was a part of waking that up, but you did that all on your own. I think that's amazing. That shows you the power of what we're able to do, is that people are able to stretch beyond the act of simply implementing and doing these things, but take something like that and actually help, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. Like that is the sort of brick and mortar of all of us being part of making our world better, right? Because we are the ones who are going to have to do that, right? And I mean we, not as in us sitting here, everyone,
Sure,
right?
of course.
Everyone
You
being
watching,
a part
you
of this,
listening.
you watching, all of you are part of this, of us sort of molding and shaping what we want out of this. And it's like, I like making games because I can make a world. I can make a world that I want to see. I can make all the rules inside of that world, but it can hopefully stretch out. It can connect to other people. You know, the thing that moved me so much as a kid was watching Star Trek, the original series, right? Watching the reruns of that and actually seeing this idealistic view of the future, this feeling that we could transcend beyond some of the nonsense that we were dealing with,
Sure.
right? And I feel like, I don't know, to be part of that, to be able to take some of these things and actually connect to people and have a message is just incredible.
What's so crazy to me is so many kids or so many people grew up with Star Wars as their first kind of entryway into movies, into motion pictures, and that really kind of was the birth of like the blockbuster type movies. To imagine the kids that are going to grow up with MCU and like to see what their new, like in 30 years, what is the next thing that is like that?
Yeah.
The idea of the interconnected universe and like just movies having to work on multiple levels of having to work by themselves, having to work within their sequel line, but also working alongside all these other movies. It's like, it's just expanding the possibilities.
Yeah.
What are movies how are movies gonna be different than Netflix series? Like, is TV and movies gonna fuse? You know what I mean? It's like, there's so many options out there that we just don't know.
And will there suddenly be interactive sort of aspects integrated into this? Like,
Add video games
we've
to
always
that.
sort of toyed around with it, but who knows, man? Like the potential future, right, of being able to go and experience a movie, right, that seems like what you're doing is watching a movie on a screen in a crowd of people, but what you're getting is your experience while at the crowd of people at the theater. So instead of watching something on the screen, it's like you're getting something beamed in, right? And then you're all experiencing something, but you're able to have a slightly different experience, right? You're able to change some of these things or see a brand new movie from a celebrity who's long since been dead. Right?
Sure, holograms,
Like
that's what's all
that
about.
crazy stuff that they have now. So that's wild, man.
Yeah.
The future,
The future's now.
right?
It's fascinating, crazy. Yeah, I can't think. I talked to the comic book club before you got here, and I told a story on it that I think I might have even kind of tweeted. But like, to go see Into the Spider-Verse in theaters, to cry twice because it's so good and so touching and so amazing, to come home and then turn on the Arrowverse crossover multiverse finale.
Oh, is that where they switch roles?
Yeah. To finish that, to turn on PS4 and play Spider-Man because I needed to swing around and just be like, I would lose my goddamn mind at 12 years old.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there reading Wizard magazine, hoping this Nicolas Cage Superman movie sounds weird, but please make it so I can see it. I just want to see Superman on the big screen.
It's crazy. Like the fact that Spider-Verse, I saw it again yesterday and loved it even more, that it worked. Like the idea of it's like that before seeing the trailer on paper, you're like, this is going to be a bad movie. Oh, it's animated. oh, there's a whole bunch of different Spider characters. Oh, there's going to be how many origin stories? Like, what's this going to be? And to see that everyone was so wrong. And we all knew once the trailer dropped that this was going to be something special. I don't think anybody expected.
We hoped.
I don't think anybody,
by trailers.
I don't think anybody expected it to be this moment. And it reminds me of God of War a lot, where there's so many people were just like,
surprising.
No one likes Kratos. Like, why? Like the story-based thing about Kratos being a dad. I don't want this at all. And it's like, and then you see it come together at the end. It's like, we're just in such a good time. Whether it's movies, games, music, everything is just so good.
We
the last
love
couple
to
of years.
be surprised.
Yeah.
Right. I think part of the appeal, and it's not to say that any of these things are not as good, but when you can create something that also surprises people, I feel like that's this extra sort of fuel that makes the fire even brighter, simply because people are like, I just didn't expect this. And instead of, like you were saying, going into the hype of Breath of the Wild, oh yeah, it was all right, but no hype, probably would have been a very different experience. I cannot wait to see this thing, but in yet another situation, I probably won't see it until it comes out digitally.
Yeah, you really got to make time to see it. This one's special.
I know. It looks amazing. Well, hopefully we can either get my son to sit through the whole thing, right? Which just he
Still
doesn't
not happening, huh?
Well, he has sat through. Let's see, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay.
Loves that movie. Babe Pig in the City.
Yes.
Polar
hold on.
Express.
Babe Pickens, not even Babe 1, Babe 2.
Babe 2, right?
Directed by?
Yeah.
George Miller.
Right. I actually told George
The
that.
definitive movie.
I was like, man, my son, that was the only movie he would make it through. So that was his first movie that he watched the whole way, and he actually wanted to put on his iPad, and he rewatch it and just rewind over and over. So I told George, because we had a moment when I went to Australia the first time, and his son came to work because he wanted to meet me because he had played the God of War games. And he's like, this is my son Budo, and I just want to point out that he has no interest in anything that I do. But when he found out you were coming, he was like, can I come to work with you?
That's awesome.
And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And now I'm like, yeah, my kid has no interest in anything I'm doing, but loves Babe Pig in the City. Like, still rewinds that movie over and over again.
Hey, it's a classic, man. Me and Kevin saw it in theaters.
In theaters, no less.
In theaters, Babe 2.
Honestly, there's a bit of the sort of Jeannot Caro level of strange French movie going on in certain parts of that. Like, I was fascinated by some of the sort of designs that they had done in there. So, yeah, just fun.
You say he has no interest in what you do, your son.
Yeah.
Does he have interest in video games?
Spider-Man was the first. I mean, the first video game he played, sort of questionable whether or not it's really a video game. It's like the Brio train set for iPad.
Okay.
So you can move tracks around and run trains. Not really a game as much as a simulator of wooden Brio sets. And yeah, like he had a few other games that he played, but nothing really that enthusiastic. But man, when he played Spider-Man, first when we booted it up and we had sort of the family day of playing Spider-Man, just could not stop giggling and laughing as we were swinging around the city. Thought it was the greatest thing ever. Wanted to take the controller then. And then once he took the controller, refused to give it back to us. Nice. So like we couldn't boot the Spider-Man up anymore without him basically taking the controller and taking over. So that was his first sort of foray into real games. And then he got Paw Patrol for the Switch.
There it is.
He did.
Yeah. And he is an avid Peppa Pig and Paw Patrol fan.
Rubble on the double.
I don't know what the deal is. Like when we make kids games, we make super hard platforming, right? And I don't know if it's like a bunch of game designers sort of punishing their children based on the fact that I grew up on Mega Man. So
It's
you
just
suffer
trying
too.
to get them to sit there and play it over and over and over again. Don't make it easy. Don't let them get through it.
He gets so frustrated, and but he still loves Paw Patrol, so he wants to rescue, and finish the mission and stuff like that. But man, I was like, they got to find something better for that is more encouraging for kids. That you can fail, but it's not like that precision platforming. Right?
Yeah.
I'm the worst platforming player, so I can't even do like Dad to the rescue, I'll help you out. It's like, man, I'm terrible at platforming.
the cop Paw Patrol dog is right down the hole.
I'm just like,
Just go.
Oh, man. Peppa Pig.
I think I told you at the bar after you had won your Game Awards and you were out there celebrating, you had the champagne, you're just shaking on everybody.
This is right. Yeah.
It's all over.
Sounds exactly like
Sounds
me.
just like you.
Yeah.
I was flabbergasted when I put together that Atreus's actor was the actor from the Jonah Hill movie mid-90s.
Yeah.
I've played God of War, love God of War. I know the voice so well. I had watched all of mid-90s, never thought he sounds like Atreus. And then when he came out with Judge or whatever, and they did the boy line, I was like, Wait, is that
Was that the kid from mid-90s?
What? And it was like,
I didn't know that.
and it all went together. Like, oh my god!
Right. He's also in Killing of a Sacred Deer with
know what that is.
Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman.
Okay.
Right. That was the moment in the middle of shooting the game where I was stressed out that one, he was going to get too old and his voice was going to change. Right. So I was stressing about that. And then he sends me a photo from the red carpet in Cannes. And I'm like, that's great. He's never coming back. Right? He's standing next to Nicole Kidman and Colin Farrell. I'm like, either he's going to come back and be like, or he's going to be like, I don't have time to return your calls. But always has maintained a really level head. Such a cool kid.
And I think that's part of my question is, how long before release had you recorded with him, if that makes sense? Because that was my thought too. When he came out, I was like, oh, there's no way. Because he looks about Atreus' age. Like, he can't. With the recording, that wouldn't have worked out because I would have been worried about voice changes and all these different things.
We hired him at 9 years old. So
how old is he now?
He's 13, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, it was like four years, and that last year and a half was a nail biter, man.
Yeah.
I mean, because his voice was changing, and it was noticeable by the audio engineers at first, and then they were debating whether they were going to tell me. So then nobody would tell me and waited for me to notice. And then finally it was noticeable enough that they're like, all right, we have to say something. So we're getting a lot of stuff in, and his voice, does sound different. And we're going to find this program and it'll help alleviate it. And I'm just like, oh, can we please finish the script? And this was still, a year out, and we were still writing the banter script.
Oh my God.
So we had written the core script, which was like, 400 something pages. And then the banter script was another 400, 500 pages or something like that. And that was what was filling all of the world. So we still hadn't written it. It wouldn't matter, if we get him in there, because we didn't have the words to have him say.
Yeah.
So he was recording pretty close to the end.
Wow.
I mean, we were in September of 17, probably September to November. We were still doing some recordings, and everybody kept saying, "Oh, he's getting taller too." I'm like, "Shut up!" Right?
I don't need you in my head right now. I don't know what this means. I don't need you in my head.
But fortunately, the taller was just like,
Yeah.
it's like a little bit. But yeah, the voice change definitely. Everybody kept saying, "Don't work with the kid because his voice is going to change." I'm like, we got tons of time, man. It's no problem. So stressful. I don't want to.
It's the things you don't think about.
Yeah.
You know, like that's such an obvious, glaring thing, but it's like that when you're planning all this other stuff, that's not what you're worried about. You know?
Yeah, I was like, at least I don't have an animal, right? Like they say, working with animals is really difficult, adds a lot of time to recordings. I'm like, so see, guys, I'm making a smart decision. There's no animals in this one, right? But yeah, it's kind of the same investment. When you have a child actor, you have the schooling. So half of the day is school, and then the other half is shooting. And they have a limited window that you can shoot in. So you kind of have to juggle and balance the stunt actor as well as the main performer, and then kind of balance it out. I think probably Kojima deals with a similar thing of trying to get all those actors into one place at one time is a Herculean effort.
Yeah.
He has way more star power in his game collectively, but still we had the same problem of like, man, they're available this one day. Oh, well, they're only available this one day. And it's like finding that juggling or juggling that sort of schedule and get everybody in there is so hard. Right? That's why movies just shoot one chunk. Sure. It's like you got them for 30 days, and we're like, oh, can we get 1 day here, 2 days here, a 3 day here, then back to 1 days? Like, I just want to get everybody in, shoot for 2 weeks, then do another 2 week shoot. That would be so much easier. And you get everybody in the rhythm too. It's like usually by day 2, you're like, oh, we're in the rhythm, and that's it. And then we don't come back for another 2 months.
Do you think games will get to that point?
I hope so. I mean, if we do another one, I definitely want to shoot in that fashion. I think it's a better way for creativity. It's a better way from a scheduling perspective. It also really gives you the opportunity that they're just getting into it.
Yeah,
it's like
that's
they're
what I
just getting
think,
started.
right?
You really get some really great improv. I think when you
I feel like
get them.
for a lot of these characters and these actors, right, it would be that struggle of you get in a groove, the day's over, the 2 days are over, you come back to it a month later, and is that like warming up of like, where was I? Oh, right, I was doing this. What
Except
did I
Troy
sound
and Nolan, man.
Well, I
guys
don't
are
know if you know,
like-
they've lost themselves. They're just characters now all the time in their
I
heads.
don't think the real them is even there, but yeah, they're like on at all times.
Yeah.
Right, and that is just, I imagine, exhausting.
You'd like to think
they're
so, but they
amazing.
don't make it. They don't act like it.
No.
they
Yeah,
both
they got
look,
the
totally
they both
cool.
look younger every time. Troy
True.
always has a new scarf.
Yeah, that's
So many
super
scarves, so
unfair,
many
isn't
scarves.
it?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they work way more than I do.
Yeah.
But they look so much better every single time. Right? It's like you see Kojima. Kojima seems to be Benjamin Buttoning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like I
Very
feel
true.
like he's going backwards.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's those weird boxes he's holding up all the time.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
You were
stuff?
there. You're
I
supposed
didn't
to talk
ask
to
him.
him.
You were a
about
man on the
it.
inside.
Right. I was on the inside and I did talk about it. And I saw a recent one and I was like, is that like some de-aging
So
potion?
he didn't give you any. He didn't give you because
No,
that's like when you
no.
know you've made it.
Right,
If
then he
Kojima
gives it.
gives you the little
Then
box
I
thing and you
clearly
take the
haven't
photo
made
with
it.
him, yeah.
Right.
Oh my god, that's when
Let's
you'll
say
know.
him and Norman, they're holding those
Oh
things
yeah,
up
totally.
and he's just like,
Norman
they
Reedus,
both
another
are-
guy. Like he's old, but he don't look old.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He is de-aging.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
They're all doing it. They're part of some
The
secret thing,
Illuminati.
right?
I believe it. I
It's
believe
like
it.
the what is that? The latest thing is the is it fasting? Fasting diets or whatever, where you don't eat until a specific time of the day. So like,
Nick did one of those. Nick did one of those.
You only eat for 8 hours
yeah,
of the day.
And
So it's
like
from
this-
noon to 8 p.m.
Yes. People have been talking about that like crazy, and it's like really good. So I don't know.
Yeah, I
thought that
remember
was
when they said
fascinating.
eggs weren't good for you. Then they said eggs were. I don't trust anybody.
Right, you
anymore.
can't trust any of that stuff.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
mostly the internet. You can't
Exactly.
Intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting.
That's what
Thank
it
you.
is.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yes, that
Can't confirm. Does not work.
right.
That's how I've lived my life for 29 years.
I just say I do that like that. I don't do that for any reason beyond
It's just-
I'm so busy.
Yeah.
Like I get up, I have a coffee, and that's it. Like, and I don't usually eat until the evening.
Technically,
meal.
you're not supposed to have coffee for it either.
Right?
So
You're supposed to
that's
have
where I
black
break
coffee.
it. Oh, you
Black
can?
coffee is acceptable.
Oh, then I'm good.
But any additive to
I'm
it,
back.
you couldn't put anything in there. At least that's what I was hearing from the person talking about it, but it could be wrong.
This is the person talking about on the plane in the row behind you. You know, you're not even
Right.
playing.
I was
You're having a conversation,
eavesdropping.
You're like playing a game, you're like listening in.
No, I think
like-
it was an art. It was like Chris Pratt or something.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like not personally talking, but hearing an interview that he was talking about what the process is for all
Mm.
of that. And I saw something like The
Gratification.
Rock eating like a
Don't even
plate
get
of
The Rock.
sushi at midnight or something like
Yeah,
that.
those are his cheat meals. He always
Yeah.
makes me
Right,
do
like
his
that,
cheat
but
meals.
it was like so massive.
crazy.
Like
Yeah.
I was like, that's a party of 6.
Yeah.
Right? Eating
Yeah.
a meal, and he's just like, "This is my midnight meal. I can't eat at that hour. That's crazy."
Well, I don't know if you're burning as many calories as The Rock is. I think
Right.
that's it.
He
You
is
know what I mean?
definitely
Yeah.
right. He's amongst those people who, the successful people. There was that article about the most successful people start their day at 4 a.m. And I was like, dude,
do that. Can't do that.
I am
Sorry.
never going to be the world's most successful people
Yeah,
if that
no.
is one of the criteria.
Not a fan.
Yeah. Like I started my day at 4 a.m. if I hadn't gone to sleep. But
Yeah.
if I'm going to wake
Can
up,
relate.
it is not at 4 a.m. It's for why did I let them book a flight at this hour?
Exactly.
That is the only time
It's
I am up. At
Never
4
a good
a.m.
idea.
Yeah.
I've never felt good about like when you're booking the flight. You're like, if I do this, I'll get home by this. That's going to be great.
Right.
Every single time I wake up, I'm
Why
like,
did I
why
do
did I do
What
that?
was I
Why did I
thinking?
I would have
this?
much rather
I'm an idiot.
any more
Yeah.
sleep. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I do not do well with that.
Corey,
Yes, sir.
we're about out of time with you.
Oh, it feels like it just flies by.
It does because it's just some friends talking here.
Right. Chilling, hanging out.
Put a button on your 2018. What sum
Put
it
a
all
button
up
on
for
it.
me? What does it all mean to you?
My childhood dreams came true. And I feel like an industry that I've always been a part of. I feel like maybe I've made a mark on. And I think for me that's such an incredibly important thing. I had told people in one speech during the development of the game, and I was hesitant to say it, and then I never, I think, said it again. But I said that, I think we need to make something that, not only makes an impact initially, but ripples, I think, through the timeline of games, right? And I said, I know it's crazy and ambitious, but I feel like we have the right people to do this. And I don't know. I mean, this year feels like we might have gotten close to doing something like that. So I am forever thankful, forever humbled by the people, not only that I work with, but the people that appreciate the crap that we do, right? Because we make shit up for a living, and they enjoy it. So that's awesome. Thank you, everybody. It's because of you.
Well said, Mr. Barlow.
Thank you, sir.
And I think you have.
Oh,
I think
that's
you have.
very simple.
Definitely.
If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Game Over Greggy Show each and every week. 4, sometimes 3 best friends gather on this table, each bring a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can watch us record the show live, get the pre and post show early, get the whole show early, and if you don't want to give us any money, it's okay. The following Friday, it goes up as one big video, one big MP3 on youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Nope, youtube.com/kindafunny, and podcast services around the globe.
It's been a long
year.
Couple years. Lifetime.
Tim, where can you get those shirts?
You can get the shirt kindafunny.com/store.
Do we fix it so it doesn't look like it's trying to steal the information?
You can
yet?
get this shirt at bit.ly bit.ly/kindafunny.com/store. You have to spell out dot and slash.
It's probably
Right.
fixed by now, right? Kevin's checking.
Yeah, it may seem weird that you're depositing to my account, but
But did
don't
you
worry
already
about
do the
it.
thing
It's
where
all
you said
good.
it's okay? Because if you
Yeah,
okayed
people
it once.
were tweeting at me, Kevin, saying it's not fixed. So bit.ly/kindafunny.com/store.
Until next time,
Wait
ladies
a
and
minute.
gentlemen.
Were you modeling over there on that
Oh yeah, of
one?
course
Oh,
I'm everywhere, baby.
You're
It's
a
been our
model.
pleasure to serve you.
Oh, that's
Thanks for watching the Game Over Greggy Show, everybody. Click up here to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click down here to subscribe Patreon. Click on the Patreon thing. Support us there. We need your money. And then click over here to watch Cory Barlog's Gamescast spoiler cast for God of War. And then click down here for whatever Cool Greg or Kevin want to put there. Bye, everybody.